Chicago Cubs News Today.
A leaked movement behind the scenes in Chicago could change everything. Pay close attention to this. You sit down on the couch on a Saturday night, turn on the TV to enjoy an excellent quarterfinal game of the World Baseball Classic between Japan and Venezuela, and suddenly your world collapses. Japan is an incredible team. The game starts on fire with absurd home runs, but you, the fan, can only focus on one thing: the image of our star leaving the field limping. Did you see the replay of that slide into second base? Did you feel the jolt in your own knee when he hit the base while being thrown out by Gleyber Torres? Because that is exactly what happens when the guy who carries our offensive hope falls to the ground groaning in pain in the middle of March. Baseball has these absolute cruelties. You spend the entire offseason dreaming about a postseason berth, projecting statistics, imagining epic victories at Wrigley Field, and a single play in an international tournament places a gigantic question mark over absolutely everything. The impact of losing this player is not just another absence. It is the type of sports tragedy that changes the gravity of an entire division and makes opposing pitchers smile in relief. I jumped out of my chair when I saw Seiya Suzuki lying on the dirt at the end of the first inning. My heart jumped into my throat. We allowed our best hitter to represent the Japanese national team, and the reward is trauma in his right knee long before opening day. It is infuriating to watch that moment when the medical staff enters the field, and he tries to hide the pain, walking off without help, but with one leg clearly heavy. They say it was discomfort after striking his rib cage and knee violently during the stolen base attempt. But the image of him being replaced by Shota Morishita at the beginning of the second inning will haunt my nightmares for weeks. Want to support the channel so it can keep covering the Cubs? Send a Buy Me a Coffee through the link in the description. I keep imagining the despair of the Chicago Cubs front office watching this from afar. A disaster of this magnitude breaks the morale of any passionate fan. We know that one poorly calculated slide can tear a ligament, can cause a severe bone bruise, and suddenly all that spring preparation goes straight into the trash. It is agonizing to see our offensive engine broken. To understand the size of the crater opening in the roster, you only need to look coldly at the astronomical numbers he delivered. Seiya Suzuki is not just a hardworking outfielder. He is the true offensive engine of the Chicago Cubs. He is coming off a monstrous season where he hit 32 home runs and drove in 103 runs on the north side. Removing a player who carries an OPS above 0.800 for the third consecutive year creates a real black hole in the middle of the lineup. Baseball is a game of connections. Without Suzuki's lethal bat in the middle intimidating opponents, opposing pitchers no longer need to throw quality pitches to the hitters who bat before or after him. They start focusing on neutralizing the weaker players on our roster without the slightest fear of being punished with a home run. The production of the entire team collapses like a house of cards. A player with an OPS plus of 129, which is incredibly 29 points above the league average, forces pitchers to spend more energy and make mistakes. Without that constant pressure in the batter's box, the offensive dynamics of the entire team become compromised and the scoring drops dramatically. I look at the contract calendar and my frustration only grows. Suzuki is entering the final year of that massive contract of 5 years and $85 million that we signed right after the 2022 strike. He will turn 32 in August and will become a free agent right after the 2027 season. I wanted to see him play with fire in his eyes, destroying the ball to secure another massive contract and lead us back to the top. His deal has been an absolute success, and we need him to repeat at least the 20 home runs he delivers every single year. Seeing him injured right now feels like a knife in the back of our planning. I place my October hopes squarely on his shoulders, knowing that he spent most of last year as a designated hitter and now, with Kyle Tucker gone, would be forced to return to right field full-time, already made me nervous about the physical wear and tear. Now, Suffering a knee injury in a preseason tournament makes the mountain we must climb look even steeper and more punishing. Medical updates as of Sunday morning kept everyone in total suspense. Shohei Ohtani spoke with the American press and tried to calm the situation, saying Suzuki had not yet undergone imaging tests and that everything depends on how the knee feels when he wakes up. Ohtani said he hopes it is something minor and that it will not affect the regular season. The fact that Suzuki remained on the bench, watching Japan's defeat and elimination alongside his teammates, is a small encouraging sign reported by specialists that he may have avoided catastrophic structural damage. With the Japanese national team eliminated from the World Baseball Classic, the schedule changes immediately. The player will return urgently to the Cubs training facilities in Mesa, Arizona. There, the franchise's medical staff will conduct detailed MRI scans and rigorous evaluations to determine the exact extent of the trauma and finally establish how much playing time he will miss during this final stretch of preparation for the season. I go completely crazy when I think about the scenario in our division. The National League Central is a true pressure cooker, extremely balanced, where 1 or 2 victories define who goes to the glory of the playoffs and who cries at home watching on television. We have zero margin for error. Losing an elite hitter for a month, or even a few weeks at the beginning of the season, means the exact difference between aggressively fighting for a wild card spot or falling behind in the very first months of the championship. I refuse to accept that we are going to throw the season away because of a stolen base in the World Baseball Classic. Teams like the Brewers and the Cardinals will not feel sorry for our crowded medical department. They will run over whatever remains of our defense. It is infuriating to think that all that magical momentum he was building, with a home run and 2 hits in exhibition games for the Cubs, plus an absurd /line of .33/.600/1.000 for Japan before the injury, could be interrupted by an unfortunate slip. The bitter taste of bad luck keeps chasing the North Side fan. Replacing the production of an all-star is not solved with a magic trick. The Chicago front office has options on the bench, but all of them represent a step down on the talent ladder. The most obvious candidate to take on this burden is the young Matt Shaw. The kid lost space at third base and is now training to assume a versatile role player position, coming off a very strong offensive preseason. However, placing the pressure of replacing more than 100 runs batted in on the shoulders of a rookie transitioning positions is an enormous strategic risk. The club is also closely monitoring veteran alternatives and prospects such as Michael Conforto and Kevin Alcantara. Both have shown flashes of brilliance during the spring training period. Conforto brings the experience of someone who has already lived through the pressure of the big stage, while Alcantara offers pure athleticism. But the numbers do not lie. Placing either of them against the best pitchers in the league in the everyday right field spot creates a vulnerability in the batting order that analysts and statistical models point to as critical for the team's run production. Can you visualize the weight of this uncertainty crushing our postseason ambitions? You wake up every day reading the medical bulletins from Mesa, begging that the right knee of our star does not require any surgery, because the clock is running against us and the ball will not stop flying. The division does not forgive weakness, and entering the field with a black hole in the middle of our lineup is an invitation to absolute disaster as early as April. That knee hitting second base may have been the loudest and most terrifying sound of the entire year in Chicago, a sound that threatens to destroy months of hope and hard work. If you follow the Chicago Cubs closely, make sure to subscribe so you do not miss any news.